Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me. First of all, I did not win the Powerball. Neither did you, because the Powerball is going up to 1.5 billion, so we could all retire. Next, what happened during the summer when the markets went down and then people stopped investing because they blew up their account? Well, guess what's coming? There's going to be market struggles. There's likely to be recession again. It's likely to be worldwide, and it's likely to get bad. And if people don't understand how to improve their investing strategies, they will blow up their account. We heard that Robinhood used to have like 30 million people trade. Now they have like less than 11 million people trade. The same people that are getting into improve their financial futures will make it worse. Okay, now let's talk about what happened yesterday, because that was extremely crazy. Pre-market and the live stream, I came on and I said, bull case scenario, 388 on the SPY. Bear case scenario, 376 on the SPY. What happened? We hit both case scenarios. Bull case up to 388, bear case slightly thereafter. And why the huge swing? Okay, so the Fed came out and they dropped their notes from the previous meeting, and they said 75 basis points increased yesterday, and that happened at 2 p.m. Everybody knew they were going to say that. The market was buying it up into 2 p.m., right? 150, all of a sudden you saw the Dow go green, 80 points, then 40, then 80. Then what happened? It exploded because he dropped what everybody thought they were going to say. The Dow went up to like 400 points. I told everybody, you're going to have time to get out of your positions if you're unhappy with them. So just hold. But then what happened is Jay Powell came on and he was hawkish for a good hour and a half. And as he started being hawkish, and I'll explain that, you could see the rise in the 2-year, the 10-year, and the US dollar. Now, I've mentioned those to start out my live stream 3 days straight. The 2-year, the 10-year, the US dollar. The 2-year, which was 4.41%, and I've explained this before as well. Understand, corporate debt in America is 11 trillion. Corporate debt worldwide is 22 trillion. Corporate debt gets refinanced every 2 years. So those interest rates matter to companies. It matters to earnings. As they cost more because rates are going up, earnings come down. As earnings come down, so do the stock price. So again, the 2-year was 1.44. Now the 2-year, I'm sorry, is 4.44. Now the 2-year is 4.72%, up 30 basis points. And I mentioned when it crosses 4.50%, it's going to get extremely expensive to invest in our markets. Why? Because a lot of people are turning to cash. A lot of people are in cash, and they say, if the 2-year rate, if you're going to give me 4.7% for a 2-year investment, that's where I'm going to be. The US dollar, which makes it more expensive to invest in our markets, was at 110 and change. It's up near 113. 113, 3% higher. So when we lost 3% in the market yesterday, go figure, it actually matches up. All right, next, we have an inversion on the yield curve. So we used to talk about that in the summer. We were all talking about possible recession, and then we had 2 negative GDP quarters. Well, we're back in the same state. The yield curve inversion, which is the 2-year and the 10-year, because the 10-year should bring more higher return. The 2-year is actually 4.71. The 10-year is 4.20. That's a 51 basis point inversion. That is crazy. So understand, even if we get some type of bounce today, and I'm going to talk about what the markets could potentially do in a little bit, and I'm going to talk about SPY ranges, because that's how I plan to invest today. So anybody that's curious about what trades I'm going to make, I'm only going to trade the SPY today. I've had it with stocks. I get into stock, there's demand, there's not demand. Kathy's buying, she's not buying. Somebody else comes out with a short report, someone else comes out with better earnings. It doesn't matter. I can gauge the market. Okay, so before we talk about that, let's talk about the levels that we just dropped down to, okay? Understand the QQQ, which is technology, Amazon, Meta, Apple, Netflix, Roku, which is off after reporting a loss. We all knew they were going to report a loss. Roku doesn't make any money. But the QQQ has breached, meaning gone down past its June lows. Okay. Now, the last 2 times that happened, they tried to rally from there. So understand, if we see a minor tech rally, do not be surprised. I'm zooming out. Everything that I just mentioned, unless you see interest rates come right back down, and we just heard the Fed Let's go back to Fed, how hawkish they are. So again, QQQ breached its June lows for the third time. The last two times it tried to rally, and then where are we right now? We're obviously breached the June lows, so the rally did not last. Okay, I'll talk about the SPY because I know key levels of support and resistance, and that's important for where we trade because that'll tell you if your stocks are going up or down in the market. All right, so let's get right into it. Let's talk about the SPY. Okay, 2 Mondays ago, the SPY closed at 350. Oh, let me bring it up. Let me bring it up on the chart. You guys want to look at it with me, right? I'll remove this face of mine, and let's go to the SPY chart. You guys can see my cursor, I hope. Okay, so what I'm saying is 2 Mondays ago, we gapped down here, so it was inevitable we fill the gap. That's what gaps do. We fill the gap. You understand? So we filled it right here. Boom. Filled the gap, went up higher from there. Crazy sell-off. This is the 2-hour chart. So you could see the latter end of yesterday, you could see where the volume's at, okay? Huge. So now we're going back on the chart. Hopefully this is on the screen with me. Okay, it is. Excellent. I've done that before where I just talk and it's not even there. Okay, so basically I'm looking for when we gapped up, and this is 2 Mondays ago. That Friday we finished at 358. On Monday we opened up at 364. So when I say, okay, time to fill the gap, and we haven't filled this gap. Every other gap, this gap got filled. This got filled. Remember, we gapped up. So what happens? We gap down, right? We gap down. What happens? We gapped up, okay? So we gapped up. What happens? Well, we didn't gap down yet. We kept going up. We kept going higher, right? Even though we said the market was overinflated. What happened? It rejected 389, 390. So it rejected a key level on the SPY, which I have up on my board, key level. So where are we going back to? Another key level, all right? So it's not happening today, so don't get excited. Oh, man, he said we're going to 358 today. But it's coming, and that's what I want to share with you guys. You have to understand a larger strategy, and it's okay to change your strategy. I can talk about my trading real quick. My trading real quick for the last 2 days has been poop, but I secured minimal loss because I waited for a spike. I sell on a spike. That's what I do, even if I'm taking a loss. So my trading the past 2 days sucked. Why? Because my strategy was incorrect. My strategy was they bought up the market in October. We hit the 390 level, which is going to reject, and we're going to see some consolidation. Well, we consolidated, and then the market dropped, and the market dropped because of Jay Powell. And Jay Powell says he's still going to be extremely, extremely aggressive. Okay, so again, that's why my strategy can change. So I've had 2 bad days of trading, and when I say bad days, I was in a firm. I took a loss on that one. I was in Lucid. Lucid was actually green yesterday. Lucid had a green day when it spiked up to $14.20 something cents. I got out of my position. That's it. It wasn't a huge victory or a huge loss. It was me being safe. Then after that, that's when the market jumped. Okay, so yesterday, I went onto Discord before 2 p.m. So all I talked about all day yesterday was how they're going to try and fake you out. So I said, expect the following. Expect a pump, a dump, a pump, a dump, a pump, a dump. I said it 3 times. Or it could have been vice versa. It could have been a dump first, pump, dump, pump. But the point was there was going to be some craziness. Now, I didn't think it would be as crazy and as large of range as we saw, but it certainly would. And anybody that was on Discord with me, and you get 7 free days if you sign up and you're not on Discord. Point was, you knew it was coming. You knew the pump was coming, a dump was coming, because we see it every time there's a massive announcement from the Fed or we have CPI numbers. Usually they pump it. You're like, why are they pumping it? It's inflation. And then we see a dump a day later, which makes sense. Okay, so again, we're talking about the SPY. Okay, let's talk about ranges of SPY. We gap down. So where do I think we're going to fill eventually? I think we're going to have to fill this 358 level. If we're sitting at 371 and change, understand that's 13 points on the SPY. That's about 4 or 5%. So on the QQQ, where we breached June lows, do I think we have room to go lower? Yes, I just showed you, or maybe I didn't show you, but I just showed myself again, that we could potentially go down to 357 on the SPY. Let me pull it up. and I'll show you guys real quick in case I didn't. I mean, I get so confused with what you guys see and what you don't sometimes. So again, here's where we gapped up 2 Mondays ago. We were at 358, 359. We opened at 364.50. We went down a little, went up, and we've been on a tear ever since, right? October, Dow was up 14.5%. Tech was up 6%. Now we're back at June lows. So understand, we gave back a huge bunch of the profits. However, nothing goes straight up or nothing goes straight down. So when we're seeing something about today, and I'm just going to talk about my investment strategy real quick, and then I'm going to bring up the SPY numbers. When we're seeing something today, could there be a bounce in the market today? There technically could be a bounce. I mean, China went down 3% overnight. They just followed our markets because we were down 2 to 3%, right? Got to be 3% because we finished close to a low. All right, so let's get talking about the SPY resistance levels and support levels. And I'm going to go back a day, and if you want, you could take a pen, write down these numbers because they're always going to be good. These are key levels using dark pool, using algorithms where you see support on the SPY. And when I say the SPY, I mean the markets, the S&P, the market, whether it's tech or the Dow. And yes, they don't always run together, tech and the Dow, but they run close enough, especially everything going off market conditions right now. It's not like the Dow's going to have a banner day like we used to see and tech would throw up and then it would reverse. Right now, they're both moving together. Okay, so SPY numbers, and we'll start on the high end. You could start and write these down. 389, 390. Well, shoot, that's where we rejected before we dropped. And then 388, again, same area, 388, 390. That's where we went up to on the market pump when the Fed released 75 basis points and the Fed notes from the previous week. And again, it took till Powell went live and started saying, okay, I know you guys are seeing me dovish or the Fed dovish, but we're not. We're going to be extremely aggressive with our rate hikes. We're going to keep doing this so we can curb inflation. That is what he said over and over again, which is why the market kept getting worse and why the 2-year and the 10-year and the US dollar keep going up. And if we look at it also, gold is at its worst level since I think August 2020. All right. So it all ties in. Dollar goes up, gold goes down, rates go up. All right. Now, I mentioned this 2 days in a row. Again, half of my screen should have the 2-year, the 10-year and US dollar, because should they drop without, knowing somebody says something or the finance market does something, are they looking at swaps and the swap said the Fed might only raise 0.25% or 25% next month, or something like that. Should that happen and rates go down the same way they spiked up at 2 p.m. yesterday, if rates go down, the market could be bullish. However, I'm zooming out. I'm still a bear. We had a little bull run in a bear market. I'm still a bear. Usually in a bear market when it lasts 9, 12, 14 months, and yes, a bear market could last over a year, there's usually about 5 to 6 bull runs. Because nothing goes straight down. I mean, it would be so easy if they just kept selling. You're like, okay, we're going to sell today. Perfect. Let's sell today. And it just happened every day and everybody was together. But that's not how the market is. The market's here to manipulate you, take money from you. Okay, so SPY levels. I only got to the first one. 389, right? Yesterday we saw a bounce to 388. Under that, 385, okay? Or 385.10. That's my key level, okay? We broke support there. 381, okay? That's the next level. We obviously broke support there. Then 378. I would not have been surprised to see a bounce on 378 yesterday, right? After the market dropped. I mean, the Dow went from plus 400 to minus 100. It was back to plus 100. So it was battling some of these support levels. So these support levels are key. Again, so 378. When we broke 378, and we did that yesterday, I knew 375 was incoming. Now, 375 had been a key level of support in the past, but it didn't hold. We closed it, I think 374. Let's make sure I got those numbers right. I think we closed at 374 on the SPY, and we did just under 375. So 375 a key level. When we closed at 374.87, I said, okay, let's see what happens with earnings, because companies report earnings. Roku reported earnings, decent earnings for them. However, their forecasting was terrible and they do not make money. They're not a profitable company. Okay. That's why when Coin reports, it's going to be so interesting because Coin has a market value of like 12 or 13 billion. Maybe it was 16 billion yesterday when I spoke about it. Now it's 13 billion. They lose $1 billion a quarter. So when they report in a few days, if they say they lost $1 billion, what's going to happen to that stock? See, these are the tough ones where I'm like, it should go down to like 40. It's at 60 now, but it's also so beaten up. It generally has support at 60. So when we talk about stocks that generally have support levels, and I'm going off tangent for a minute, just because I'm talking about tech stocks, like you're like, okay, Amazon, Apple, support level here. Okay, Google, support level here, or Microsoft. The QQQ broke downward. It broke past its June lows. So generally, some of these stocks, and I can mention like 20 stocks that I'm like, they're right at the support level. I kind of want to be bullish and see if I get a bounce. But that would be insane right now because the amount of money that left the stock market and that sold into this Fed news was crazy. And I've explained it before. Sometimes charts look like this. The stock throws up after earnings and then it slightly comes back because people start buying that dip. And then 3 days later, it looks worse. And I mentioned this with Meta. I mentioned it with Amazon. The same is true for the market. The market got shit on yesterday. It could look to reverse itself, but likely 3 or 4 or 5 days later, it'll be at a lower point. That's my prediction. That would be my chart, and that's probably what it's going to look like. Okay, so again, the way I'm talking about the way I trade in a minute. Let's go back to the SPY levels. Okay, so 375, which is where we closed or just under, had been a major support level. We broke through that overnight. Okay, the next level down is 371. So as we sit pre-market, probably at 372. Nope, we're 371.45. Okay, that's interesting. So we're already at the next level. So 371 is the next level. If we break down, say you think things are going to get worse today, and you probably are going to be correct. All right, it is likely this SPY will test 363 and 367, which are the next levels down. Will it test 363 today? No, I'm not saying that. Do I think it'll test 367 today? There's a possibility. All right. Again, it would not surprise me today if they try to buy the dip. Again, every time we've hit this level, they try and buy. It might last a day and a half. And then the same people that were selling into the market catch up with it. So I said after yesterday's dip, we might see a little reversal, but I think we're going to be worse off. And I brought up the chart to show you guys, which I'll do right again. Let me get rid of my face. Okay, so again, here's the 2-hour chart. And what I'm going back to is 2 Mondays ago when we closed at 358 and change, and we opened up at 364.50. So we have to fill this gap. We haven't filled this gap. Every other gap, this gap right here gets filled here. This gap gets filled right here. This gap gets filled right here. We haven't seen another gap. We didn't gap down. We've been falling hard based on the 2-hour, but that happened at 2 p.m. yesterday. And you can see again the volume. So where could we have support? Right around the 357 level. It's possible. Now, if you look at the market, we're 375 and 357 is 18 points. You're talking about a potential 5% before we could see support. And again, zooming in, just looking at today, sure, they could buy the dip and you could be like, why the hell are they buying the market? But a few days out, 3-4 days out, we'll talk about this like next Wednesday or Thursday. I'll be like, I told you we're at a lower level, just like Meta, just like Amazon, just like Google. Because what happened? Earnings came out and they bought the dip. Now where we are, we're a little worse off. Oh, I want to talk about my trading again. And so what I'm looking for today. So again, if I'm going to be bearish today, I'm going to look for a rejection level. Say they buy up the SPY and I see it rejecting at 374.50, right? That was a key level I remember. Great. Then I will get into puts there. Buy one contract. I will go out in at least a week. If anybody wants to try and blow up their account, you're going to buy options that expire tomorrow. Because if you're wrong about the trade, that option will go down to zero. Options were created to go to zero. Okay? Same way that some ETFs were created to go to zero, like UVXY. It's created to consistently go down. It's there as a hedge on crazy days like we saw yesterday. And again, UVXY only spiked like 4% yesterday. So I stay away from that. All right. If you have any questions, please put them on the side. All right, so back to the SPY. We're sitting at 371 right now. Next level down is 367. Next level under that is 363. Next level under that is 359. I mentioned the 359 because that's where we gapped up from 3 Mondays ago or 2 Mondays ago. It might have been 2 Mondays ago. We gapped up 359, 363. All right, so how am I trading today? Again, my trades are going to go out, at least if I'm trading the SPY, till next Wednesday. If I'm trading a normal stock and I think it's going up or down, and I'm going to say down, I'm going out till next Friday. True, if you trade options, you will get a better percentage gain if you choose an expiration tomorrow. But let's say you get into a stock and you're like, oh, look, it's rebounding. I'm going to get puts, and it goes like this, and you think you're right, and then it explodes higher. Meanwhile, a week from now, you are correct because it's at a lower point. But if you buy options that expire, and I used to be guilty of this all the time, I used to never give myself enough time. So again, rules of trading. Small account, large account, I don't really care. Buy one contract at a time. I used to be the guy that had 140 to 340 once. I had 880 contracts in the UVXY. I did not buy one at a time. Now I buy one at a time. That was a good trade, by the way. But now that I buy one at a time, because I never absolutely call the bottom. I tell people on my Discord, when I enter a trade, I usually miss by 12 to 18%. So if I buy an option for $2, 12% is 176, and 18% would be 162. So there's a huge difference. And if you buy an option at 162, I pay $2, you buy a 162, and it goes up to 182. You're up 10, 11%. I'm down 5, 6%. Okay, so someone's asking about midterm elections, how that affects the market. I can only talk about historical reactions in the market. So historically, all right, leading into midterms, the market goes down. So was I surprised by yesterday? Not really. Generally, after midterm elections, generally 1 or 2 weeks into the end of the year, the market goes higher. That's still, if I was going to base a guess estimate or a prediction, I would go with that because history tends to repeat itself. However, based on the activity of the SPY yesterday, and there could be a bounce today, but I would still be extremely bearish today about that anyway. And it's simple because the amount of money that left the markets yesterday was absorbent. Okay. What about the Russell? It appears to have the largest move down to support levels. Thoughts? Yes. So here's the point. The Russell is small cap tech. Okay. And I mentioned there are a number of stocks that I'm looking at that seem to have found support, or they're traded down to their support levels. That's why I said I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bounce up today. So I'm going to be extremely cautious today. But in the Russell, you're talking about all those smaller cap tech stocks. You're talking probably about Hood, DraftKings, Roblox, Lazar. It's got 4-letter tech stocks. Doesn't make money yet, right? These are small cap tech. They don't make money, but they have a decent business and they have a good customer base. And they have a decent product. I like Palantir, right? Palantir, I like to trade it. I like to trade Affirm. Affirm doesn't make money yet. All those kind of related stocks. We mentioned SoFi the other day, right? SoFi was up like 20%. It's one of Jim Cramer's favorite. It popped like 28% on the day. Then it finished only up 5% because they were selling into the pop, because that's what they do with SoFi. Because I don't know the stock, but that's the reaction the stock gets. So, okay. So yeah, the Russell, the IWM, it's been extremely strong. It's been stronger than the Dow. It's been stronger than the NASDAQ. However, after the sell-off yesterday, there are a ton of small cap stocks that are seeing support. There's a ton of everything seeing support. I mean, 371 could act as support on the SPY, and we could see a pop right back to 377. Okay, so let's talk about bull case scenario. Bull case scenario, which I am not a bull today based on the action yesterday, but it could happen because the sell-off yesterday was massive. The Dow went from plus 400 points to, where did the Dow finish yesterday? Plus 400 to down 500, okay? So you have to understand, from 2 p.m. yesterday to close, plus 400 points on the Dow to minus 500 points of the Dow. Yes, we've seen down movements of like 1,300 points. So maybe if the sell-off happens today, I can see the Dow, worst case scenario, down 400 points. Best case scenario, it could be up 300 points because we could get a bounce. So I haven't made my prediction. I am a long-term bear. If I'm zooming out and I'm buying options a month out, I'm being a bear. However, I'm not going to buy on market open because the bid and the ask spread are too wide. And you might be incorrect. You could be like, the market's going down. You could be correct. Next Thursday, we could be at a lower level. However, the market could bounce. All right. So again, I'm looking at key levels of the SPY. 371. If it breaks that to the higher side, 375. If it rejects 375, then I'll look to get into puts at 375. All right. Trading strategy, go out till Wednesday, because what could happen if we fill that gap that I mentioned, which is like 359, and we're at 375, that's 16 points, that's 5%. If I go out to a week, I might get that 5%, and I might get a return of like 400 or 500% on that option. So I might enter one contract today. I've got the account for $500. The account's starting this morning at, never have things up when I need them, at $561.84. Okay. So I'm gonna buy one option. If it costs me $350, that's it. There's no averaging down. There's no extra guessing. I'm going out till next Wednesday, so I might lock up my position. I will have some money on the side if I see some smaller day trades. Remember, cash account. All right, so I'm going to go on Discord now. I'm going to talk about more directness of what exactly I'm looking for. Anybody's welcome to join me. The link's going to be below. It's www.SOC for a name of our company, stocks, options, crypto, little dash, platform.com. 7 free days. You have to verify yourself. You get 7 free days. We've got Romeo, who does live streams, Love, who's an accounting professor and talks about the psychology of trading all the time, and me. I love to look at patterns and see patterns, and I generally see them first. All right, so everybody, please join me, 9 a.m. Discord. We'll go from there.